السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين ومن اهتدى بسنته إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. اللهم إنا نسألك علما نافعا ورزقا طيبا وعملا متقبلا وشفاء من كل داء. أمسينا وأمسى الملك لله والحمد لله، لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، له الملك وله الحمد وهو على كل شيء قدير. ربي أسألك خير ما في هذه الليلة وخير ما بعدها، وأعوذ بك من شر ما في هذه الليلة وشر ما بعدها. رب أعوذ بك من الكسل وسوء الكبر. رب أعوذ بك من عذاب في النار وعذاب في القبر. آمين يا رب العالمين. How's everybody doing today? Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, I'm doing good. It's my first time somebody asking me, mashallah, in my speech, how am I doing? Alhamdulillah, I'm doing good. Alhamdulillah, I cannot complain. None of us can complain. Alhamdulillah, Allah has kept us under many, many blessings. وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا. You cannot count Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's blessing. You won't be able to count. And we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for every single blessing that He has given to us, even the ones that we cannot see, the ones that we cannot feel. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Inshallah, today I will make the talk short. I know last week some of you guys were happy. I know one of you guys asked me, can I make the talk short like last week? 10-15 minutes. I'll make a little bit longer, inshallah. But inshallah, the point being is we will gather information, inshallah ta'ala, proper knowledge and apply it in our life, inshallah ta'ala. That's the point of these halaqat, these durus, these lessons, alhamdulillah. So the topic, I don't know if you saw it or not, the topic that I wanted to talk about today was about community, how to have a successful community. What makes a successful community? And I was going to share with you 3 points that makes a community successful in Islam. Obviously, a successful community in general is subjective, right? Anybody, I'm talking about outside the Sharia, anybody can have their own definition of a successful community, right? Depending on their own interest, depending on their own ambitions and goals in life. That's why it's subjective. Anybody can claim, a certain thing as a success, right? But we always focus on the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam defined things. But before I get into the topic itself, I want to ask you guys a question. And anybody can answer, inshallah. I wanted to ask a couple of people so I can see kind of the way that you guys think. When you think of community, what do you guys usually think? Huh? Same people, okay. A community, same groups of people, meaning the same interest, you mean, right? Same background, okay. What else? That was a good response. What else do you guys think? Huh? Jama'ah. Yeah, gathering. I mean, that's community in general, but I want specific thoughts. When you think of community, same interest, that's a good point. What else? I want you guys to think out of the box. Yes. MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Okay, helping each other. Okay. What else? Brotherhood. MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Amazing, amazing. You guys are thinking out of the box. What else? Diverse. Okay. A community can be diverse, but they are together as well, MashaAllah. What else? 2 more. Peace and tranquility. You think you were in my khutbah today? What else? Yeah.
Same objective followed very closely.
Same goal, same objective followed closely. Okay, that's good enough. Anybody else has, anybody on the sister side? I don't know if one of you guys were raising a hand or not. Sorry, I can't see it. Khalas, okay. So that's good. Everybody, by the way, all these answers are right. Right? Again, the definition of community is, is vast. Right? Every single one of you are right. Basically, what I'm trying to get at, and I wanted to show that from you guys' own words. Community means together. Somebody who is working, groups of people who are working along in the same interest. Right? That's a community. Yes, a group of people can stay in a land, but they're really not community. They're just dispersed around, right? Let's say a random city. You can think of a random city. There are people, hundreds and thousands of people living, right? Let's say a population of 20,000 in a city. But are they a community? Can they be defined as a community? Yes or no? No, they can be defined as a society, right? There's a big difference between society and community, right? I'm talking about over here a successful community, not a successful society. That's a complete different topic, right? Yes, so groups of people living, let's say 20,000 population, or numbers of people living in one same area, they're not community. But a community is when they get together and work along together in the same interest. So my point of saying that is, what is our purpose as a community at the end of the day? Anybody? Huh? To please Allah. What is our ultimate destination? Jannah. Are you sure there's no other destination? You sure? You guys are confused. I'm not trying to confuse you. You guys have any other destination in mind? Disneyland? Somewhere else? Our ultimate destination is where? Ya Ikhwan? Jannah. Ultimate destination is Jannah. Right? So we're all working together to find a common path, to find the path to where? To Jannah. That is the definition of for us Muslims, community. We need to understand that before knowing the ways to have a successful community. We need to understand what a community is, even before going into the facts and points on what makes a successful community. So a community, once again, is it's a large number of body of people, who works in the same interest. But for us Muslims, we are working towards pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and going to our ultimate destination, which is to where? To Jannah. So you're with me so far? Yes? Okay, alhamdulillah. So having said that now, that's what makes a community, my brothers and sisters. That, yes, within the community there can be diverse, the people living within the community can be diverse from different background. That's what makes Islam unique, right? That's why Islam is extremely unique. Different groups of people from different background. When you go for Hajj, we just passed the month. We just passed the Hajj. When you go to Hajj, subhanallah, different ethnicity from different background, rich or poor, doesn't matter what. They're all wearing the ihram, humbling in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You see? So all Muslims, we all have one goal, pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and going to Jannah. And when we're in a community, it doesn't matter what kind of background we are from, rich, poor, any color, doesn't matter. We all have one goal, working together. The ukhuwah, we need to have brotherhood, sisterhood amongst one another, right? So that's what makes a community. Now, having said that, let's look at now my first point, what makes a community successful? And there are many, many, many examples and points that I can give and quote. But I will, this is a topic, this is a discussion actually, more than a topic. This topic changes based on the time frame that anybody that lives, the zamana, the time frame that they're living in, right? There are certain points from that we can derive from the Quran and Sunnah for having a successful community. that may work in our time, might not have worked in the previous times. If you went 10 decades back, 20 years back, 100 years back, it changes. But I picked 3 points. Doesn't matter what time frame you live in. When you look at every single society, Islamic empire, who had a successful community, they had those 3 things. And if we, as a community, focus on these 3 things, inshallah, we can, inshallah, hope to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for making our community successful. And always remember these 3 things, inshallah, and you will, we can work towards having the successful community, inshallah ta'ala. So, before mentioning the point, let's go back in the time of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I'll give you a small history. We like stories, right? So I'll give you a small story background, so you can understand where I'm coming from, and you will understand the point more and more clearly. When you go back in the time of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he migrated first, as soon as he entered Medina, generally when you think of moving from one place to another place, far away destination, usually a person, their mind is occupied for their own needs, right? Where's my family going to live? How am I going to earn financially? It's all me. I'm just worried about myself. Let's say the life that I was living previously wasn't good. I don't want to relive that life again, right? I want to, the whole purpose of the move was for what? For what? What was the whole purpose of the move? For the migration, generally. To have a better life. To make sure that the previous life that I was living in is better than the current life will be better than the previous one. So, but look at what the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. When I say sallallahu alaihi wasallam, don't be stingy. Say sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When he first came to Medina, entered Medina, and he let his camel roam around. They wanted to take the leash of his camel, Qaswa. Everybody was excited for the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam entering the beloved city of Medina. They all wanted to host the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Who wouldn't, right? Anybody living in that city, they would want the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam to sit his foot in their place, in their house. But the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Leave Qaswa alone," and he let Qaswa roam by itself, saying that she follows the commandment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I gave a small lecture about Qaswa before, so this story might be a little bit familiar to you, but I will add things that I didn't mention at that time. So Qaswa was moving freely, and then it stopped. It stopped by itself in one of in the current place of Masjid Nabawi. It stopped at the current place. It was going and walking. People were excited to take the rein or the leash, whatever you call it, of Qaswa, and it stopped at the current Masjid Nabawi. And the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even before finding a place to stay, even before finding a job, whatever you may think of, he first commanded the Sahaba to come in that place where Qaswa stopped and build a masjid. Build a masjid. You with me so far? He didn't build, workplaces. He didn't build companies, right? Any rich person moving from one place to another place, like Elon Musk. I came from Dallas. So when I moved from California to Dallas around COVID time, he moved as well. He moved, it was coincident. I didn't follow him, trust me. So he moved to Texas area, and he bought his whole SpaceX Tesla headquarters over there, and he was thriving, right? He bought his companies there. People were excited. People started to move from different areas in his place. Now apparently he built a city of his own. I forgot what he named it. He names it ajib things. He names his child XYZ, so I don't know what he's going to name the city. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. People are excited. Muslims moving there. You would think that they're moving probably because of the Muslim community and everything. No, because there are hundreds and thousands of job openings, subhanAllah. And it's obvious because their job openings, people are worried about themselves, they want to earn for their families and all that, this and this. But look at the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He built, the first thing he did after the hijrah, he built a masjid. And when he built the masjid, the Sahabas, they helped the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They, they were confused in the beginning. Why is the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam building a masjid instead of, let us help him find a place to stay and everything? But they followed the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam was so excited. I want you to pay close attention to this. They're putting the bricks together, building the masjid. And the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam was so excited building this. This is the first thing he did as soon as he moved and he made the hijrah. He was chanting a poetry. هذا الحمال لا حمال خيبر هذا أبر ربنا وأطهر. It's amazing poetry. They made a nasheed out of it as well. This load that we are carrying, load of what? Bricks. These loads of bricks that we are carrying is better than the load of the wealth and the loads of Khaybar. Khaybar was known to be a mountainous area, around Mecca. It's kind of like the Beverly Hills. Beverly Hills, in California. One of they name it the most richest city in the US or something like that. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. It's like a rich city. All the wealth over there, all the millionaires, all rich people living in that place. So Khaybar was known to be like that. A lot of rich, people stayed from the Quraysh, from the elite. They stayed in that neighborhood. That neighborhood, Khaybar, was known to be a rich area. So he was chanting that this load that we are carrying is better than the load and the wealth of Khaybar. For it is more pious in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and purer and better rewardable. So he was chanting this, extremely excited, building this masjid. And then, when the masjid was done, guess how the masjid was? I'm telling you this specific incident because I will connect my first point with this, and then you will understand better why. The masjid, usually when you see nowadays, right, is fancy, masjid with fancy marbles, chandeliers, right? The lights are beautiful, the outsides are beautiful. But when you were to see the masjid of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I wish I had a projector here, so I could have shown you how the masjid of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam is. There is an AI-generated video of the masjid, the first masjid, when he first built it, how the masjid was. Did anybody see it? Nobody saw it? When you go home today, right, AI-generated Masjid Nabawi. When the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam first built it, it looks very simplistic. Beautiful, anyway. His house was right, not his house, but the place that he was staying, because we know that he had his personal house, but within the masjid compound, there was a small place that he rested between the salahs and everything. So it looked beautiful and simple, but it's not something, a masjid like you recognize today. When you think of masjid, you think of lights, fancy carpets, fancy roof, all decked out. The masjid of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam wasn't like this. It was sandy, no carpets, full of rocks and dusts, small pebbles. The roof was made out of date palm trees. The leaves, those big branches of the date palm trees, I don't know if you saw it or not, that was the roof of the masjid. On rainy days, the floor of the masjid became muddy. To the point when the Sahabas used to do sajda, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he was doing sajda, the mud used to be smeared in the face. This was the masjid of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But what was the masjid used for? Even though it wasn't, the aesthetics of the masjid wasn't the same as ours, or the masjid that you see nowadays. Very simple. What did he use that masjid for? And this leads to my first point. If you want a successful community, this first point you and I should focus on. The first thing that he focused on, yes, 5 salawat. Yes, we all pray. The masjid, that's the primary use of the masjid. Praying the daily 5 times prayer, right? Praying the daily 5 times prayer, doing ibadat, reading Quran, doing dhikr. Yes, but it doesn't end there. Unfortunately, there's some states that you go to, and the masjid is locked in between the salahs. You only pray the salah and leave, and it gets locked. And when you think about it, everybody thinks like that. Okay, we only pray salah and leave. That's the masjid. That's the basic need of the masjid. That's the basic need. Even if you don't even have the salawat, then that's not a masjid. Then that's just some hall. But there are much more bigger need in the masjid than the salawat. How was the masjid of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam? What did he use the masjid for? That made his community a successful community. When we see the Sahabas, my brothers and sisters, they didn't go to universities. You know that? We go to university these days. We migrate from our motherland to here so that we can have higher education. We get better jobs. All those are good, yes. But look at the Sahaba, the students of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They didn't go to any universities. They didn't get high degrees from Ivy League school, from Harvard or from Yale or anything like that. What did they do? They studied at the University of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, specifically the University of the Masjid of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They all graduated from the University of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Subhanallah, just think of that. So when you think of that, then you think, what is the primary use of the masjid then? The primary use of the masjid is to give the tools to every single Muslim to know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from you and I. The masjid should provide the tools, the primary tools for what? To know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from you and I as a Muslim. The basics of knowledge. طلب العلم فريضة على كل مسلم. That seeking knowledge is fard on every single Muslim. What kind of knowledge is that? Unfortunately, a lot of us don't even know the arkan of salah. A lot of us don't even know the arkan of wudu. A lot of us don't even know the basics within our faith. So the masjid should be used for that. And that's what we see with the Sahaba, the students of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That when you enter the masjid, what would you see? You would see Sahaba sitting together in halaqat. Sitting together in halaqat. I'll give you a beautiful hadith, subhanallah. It's kind of like a sight from one of the Sahaba. He mentioned, it's narrated in Muslim by Jabir ibn Samura radiallahu ta'ala anhu, where he said that كان لا يقوم قال النبي عن جابر بن سمرة رضي الله عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان لا يقوم من مصلاه الذي يصلي فيه الصبح أو الغداء حتى تطلع الشمس فإذا طلعت الشمس قام وكانوا يتحدثون فيأخذون في أمر الجاهلية فيضحكون ويتبسم. Beautiful sight. If you were to think of how would the sight be if you were to enter the masjid of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what would you see? You know what would you see? You would see the Sahaba sitting together, laughing, not talking about foolish things, useless things, but they were laughing about that state that they were in before, in the time of ignorance, in the time of Jahiliyyah, how they were when they were misguided, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided them. Meaning that their time, the free time that they had, they still spent in the masjid amongst one another. getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, knowing the matter of the deen, having halaqat of different subjects in the deen that will get them close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, the first point, and this is a big point which took a lot of my time to explain, and that's why I mentioned all these back stories so you can understand. That first point for a successful community is that we equip the masajid, the mosques, with what? The knowledge that will equip our kids, us, ourselves, with the umur ad-din, with the matters of our religion. With the matters of our religion. Yes, none of us are mashayikh. None of us are scholars. I'm not a scholar, you are not a scholar, right? We cannot think that we will give every single knowledge from us to our kids. Rather, maybe, if we do that, our kids might even get more misguided because we don't know the matters of the deen. But guess what? If we don't really care about this, then when they go outside and go, especially since we are living in a majority non-Muslim land, they will get influenced by the outside. Instead of learning about the matters of the religion, they will learn about the matters of fawahish, about the matters of filthy things. You see that? You see my point? So the masjid should be equipped with these tools, with these tools, so they can shield themselves from the filth outside. That's the first step, the first key to a successful community. So now, having said that, this was the basic, the foundation of the community of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That was the foundation. 5 salawat is not a foundation of a successful community. No. Everybody has to do that regardless whether you like it or not. You don't have any option. Some people, I remember a couple of weeks back, some brothers, I was talking to them, and subhanAllah, unfortunately, look, how the society has influenced people. They think that the 5 prayers in their daily life is optional. They have choice. I'm a good Muslim. I don't have to pray. Yeah, or in worst case scenario, they combine all the 5 salahs at the end of the day. They're shy to pray in their workplace, or they're lazy. So what they do before sleeping, they combine all those 5 prayers and they pray. And that prayer that they make up is also bad. They pray it's like the way that the Messenger explained, like a crow, up and down, up and down. You know, the crows, when they eat, they peck on the ground, right? It's like that. They're pecking. They're not even praying properly. You see that? So 5 salawat, we have to do that regardless. Otherwise, then what makes us Muslim then? The first thing that the angels, the malaika will ask us in the grave, after asking us about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, about our Rabb and the Messenger, salah. Right? So salah is the base, is the basic things that you and I have to do, regardless we're in the community or not. We are isolated or not. Right? So the foundation of a community is not 5 prayers. If anybody says that, they're completely wrong. The foundation of a successful community, we see this in the community of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, equipping the community, the Muslims, the kids, it doesn't matter what age, old, young, doesn't matter what stage in life, equipping them with the proper tools of Islam, so they can shield themselves from kufr, from disbelief. That's what makes a foundation of a successful community. That's the first point. Now leads to my next point. So this has to do with within ourselves. You see that? So far we've been only focusing within ourselves, within our own bubble. Within our own bubble. Now the second point, and when you would see the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the way that his community was successful. What made his community successful? After this first very point, and subhanAllah, this was mastered in his time. The second point, which is extremely important, is focusing on the outside. So after focusing within ourselves, within our own bubble, focusing on the outside. What do I mean by that? taking leadership outside, spreading the deen outside, and that can be any form. That can be getting a leadership position within the city. That can be in a way that we influence, different people outside who are non-Muslims, slowly gaining control, spreading the deen like that. Whether it's physical da'wah, whether it's da'wah through leading a city, right? Running the, as a governor, as a mayor, as in the city, anyway, like this, focusing on the outside. And many of us, unfortunately, we don't have that ambition within ourselves. We think that we just get a job, a high-level job, and we provide for our family, and that's where it ends. That's it. And we work, run that, chase that rabbit hole for the next 40, 50 years until we retire, and then we retire, gather our pension or our 401k, then we go back and buy a small house in a lake area on the beach, and that's it, and die there. That's such a boring life. That's what Americans do. That's what Americans do. This is what they make us think. That we get a degree, and as soon as our kids reach the age of 18, we kick them out of the house, and it's just you and I. And if we are fortunate enough to have wealth, we can live by ourselves, but if we are not, our kids throw us into the nursery homes, and then it's such a depressing, boring life, subhanAllah. And that's why everybody is, the disunity is high amongst these non-Muslims. They have broken families, broken communities, broken society, everything is broken. And if we follow on that path, it's going to ruin our kids as well. It's going to ruin our kids as well. So when we see the community of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we see this extremely clear. It's clear like day and night that they influenced the outside a lot. After focusing within their own bubble, within their own community, they focused a lot outside. Slowly, the influence of the Muslims started to spread. This is how the Muslims, subhanAllah, gained majority control over the world. They became the world power. As I mentioned in the khutbah, they became the world power. When each, subhanAllah, I don't know if you know Ibn Khaldun, rahimahullah ta'ala. Who knows Ibn Khaldun? You guys don't know? If I guys don't know, it's a shame. We should know our scholars in the history. Ibn Khaldun was one of the big scholars and historian. He's so big that even Ronald Reagan quoted him. You know Ronald Reagan? If you don't know Ronald Reagan, then I don't know if I should be proud or not. It doesn't matter. Who's Ronald Reagan? Oh, it's president. Astaghfirullah. So you guys know Ronald Reagan, but you don't know Ibn Khaldun. Shame on you guys. Just kidding. So even Ronald Reagan quoted him. There is a book, The Most Influential People in the World, written, I forgot the author, written by some kafir. He put the first most influential person in the world, in the history and in the future ever to live and enter the earth was the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Somewhere in the list, he put Ibn Khaldun as an influential person. There was a great historian a decade ago, I forgot his name, he quoted Ibn Khaldun as well. Ronald Reagan quoted Ibn Khaldun. What's his name? One of the mayors a couple of years back in California quoted Ibn Khaldun. What's so special about Ibn Khaldun? He was involved in politics big time. Politics big time. The time that he lived at a time when the Muslims were the superpower. He united everybody and he brought the Islamic empire extremely high. No wars at all. He didn't involve himself in any wars. He used these tactics that I'm talking about in of the successful community from the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he has a book. In his book, he mentioned two things which where an Islamic empire falls. Which an Islamic empire's fall, or empire in general falls, in general. If there is any superpower in an empire, there are two reasons why it would fall. The first reason he puts, when oppression becomes widespread. That's obvious. When oppression becomes widespread, you will not have control as a leader, as a army, you will not have control over your own people. And slowly, they will disunite amongst themselves and you will lose power. That's obvious, right? But guess what? The second thing he says, the second reason why an empire falls. The second reason why an empire falls is when we don't affiliate ourselves with the outside. Because the time that he lived in, the people, they dispersed in different areas in the society, which gained them control slowly of the whole empire, of the whole world. And when you see this, specifically this example, currently the only thing I can think of, the only ones are Jews. The Jews are always united and they're always together. Why? They involve themselves in everything. Obviously the financial institutions are the biggest thing that they involve themselves in, right? You all know that. When they first came over here, they gained control of the financial institutions, banks and whatever. But the second thing that they do, they involve themselves in all these areas in society. Either running for presidency, schools, gaining control of everything. So when they have their own people in these areas of society, slowly they get together and they get strong and strong and strong and strong. But guess what they learned this from? Wallahi, they learned this from us Muslims. And they work amongst themselves to disunite us. So we don't make this, we don't unite together and we work together on the same matter. So we become superpowers again. Because if we are united together, then everybody will not have a chance to fight against us ever. And that's exactly Ibn Khaldun mentioned in his book. And it's famous. There's probably a clip of Ronald Reagan, he mentioned this quote from his book as well. So the second point we see from the life of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam, we see that what they focused in was the matters of outside after focusing on inside. After focusing on inside, they focused outside. And slowly, they spread the deen like that. And they got control of a majority of lands. They gained control of the faith. Islam became widespread. This is the second key to a successful community. With this third one, inshallah, we'll end with this. And I went over time. I had to focus a lot on the first aspect because that is the primary focus and the key to a successful community. If there's anything that you took away, we need to focus on this first key. This third point, inshallah, and I will end with this, that which makes a successful community, after focusing on the inside and the outside, again, after focusing on the inside and the outside, is to focus on the poor. To focus on the poor. The ones who are unfortunate. The ones who are what? Unfortunate. There was a time in one of the Khalifa's life where his people came to him and said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, we don't know, because at that time, in the time when there was a Khalifa, there was Baytul Mal, a kind of like a reserve, a bank reserve, which when people pay zakah and everything, when they pay tax, is collected and is dispersed, right? The money to the poor and needy. So much money was collected that they couldn't find who to give it to, because there was no poor living. Can you imagine? Just imagine thinking of a time when you have to give zakah and you cannot find a poor person to give to. Just put that in your head. Just put that. Just imagine that you go around and work hard to find a poor person to give your zakah to give sadaqah, to give charity. You cannot. You cannot. And people came and complained to this Khalifa. We cannot find, any poor person. So, what led to this? That there is no poor person among them. And it's not that the community was small, the society is small. This was when Islam was the superpower. Meaning that they went countries, because at that time there were no countries like chopped into pieces. It was all one land. So they couldn't find a single poor person to give to. Subhanallah. And what led to this? Because every single poor person, every single people who are unfortunate were taken care of. Every single person who are unfortunate were taken care of. And this leads to my khutbah point as well, by the way. Like for example, when you see oppression, you stand for, you stand with them. You fight for their right. And this forces you, this trains you to help the ones who are needy. Because when you are by yourself, when you're always isolating yourself, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will destroy you first before He destroys the disbelievers. And I gave the story today. I don't know if whoever was there for the khutbah, but I mentioned a story that there was a pious servant living in a city, and he was isolating himself, keeping himself in the corner of the room of his house, worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala day and night. Not a single drop of sin he committed, because obviously there's no way that he can disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But then the outside, the reality of the outside, his time that he was living in, so many fawahish, so many disobedience, so many oppressions were going around his time. When the angel whose only responsible is to destroy, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded this angel of punishment to go and destroy that village, the angel went, and before destroying a village, always the malaika, this angel of destruction, he goes and he scans the city. He scanned and came back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and said, "Oh Allah, there's a pious servant amongst this village, where he is extremely obedient to you. All he does is pray and worship, and he hasn't committed a single drop of sin. How can I destroy that city, Allah?" And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, "Go destroy him first." What? This is I'm not making it up. I know it sounds crazy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to go and destroy him first. Why do you think that? Let me ask you. And with this I will end. Why do you think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed him first? Anybody? Yes. Huh? Why? He worshipped Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala day and night. So why would Allah destroy him first? I want to ask that kid in the back. Come. Ta'al. MashaAllah. Come here. We cannot hear you. Can you guys hear him? I still can't hear you. My ears are dirty. Come. Huh? He wasn't aware of what was happening in the community? So what? I mean, he's keeping himself away from the filth, right? Okay, if he was aware still, huh? The first point you said is the point. When you see bad happen in front of you, when you see evil happen around you, when you see disobedience happen around you, and if you are silent, you are sinful. When you don't stop the fawahish, when you don't stop the disobedience, when you don't stop the oppression, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not only destroy the oppressors, but He will destroy the ones who are silent. He put the oppressors and the ones who are silent in the same line. Why did He do that? Because a lot of the time, the one who was silent and not doing anything, he can change the problem around him. If everybody gets together, the community, if they get together, can they fight this disobedience, this problem away? Is that possible? If the community gets together, if they unite, can they fight this problem away? Yes or no? Yes. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed this person, this pious servant of his, because he didn't stop the bad around him. They were poor people living. Their haqq were taken away. There were fawahish that was being spread. There were evil filth that was being spread. So many bad things going around. He knew about this, but he didn't care. He was only worried about himself. So at the end of the day, point being is that we cannot only worry about ourselves. That's the basic. We do that regardless whether we like it or not. That's the whole reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent us here. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا إِيش يَعْبُدُونَ. That's the purpose of our life to begin with. The reason He sent you and I here is to worship Him. But that's the basic within us. Then after that, we worry about our community, our society. And this third point being is that we take care of the poor. We help the ones who are unfortunate. We help the one who is being oppressed. And when we focus on these 3 points, and there are obviously many other points, but these 3 points, every single society you go to in history, I can guarantee you, I'm not making this up, this is documented. Any society you go to in the history, from the time of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, obviously, that's the example that I gave, all the way till now, successful empire, Muslim community, they had these 3 things in them. They focused on the inside, the outside, focusing, making sure that their influence is well heard and controlled. And this third thing, taking care of the needy and the poor. And when they had these 3, that made them a successful community. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us a successful community. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always keep us united. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make our kids have the proper tools and equipment for the deen, inshallah ta'ala. Before I end, there's a couple of minutes. Any questions? We're good? Yes.
That is to be reconciled by you.
Yes.
Not all Jews believe in just uniting Muslims.
Not all Jews what?
There are Zionists.
Yeah.
There are certain elites within that group that believes in what you said as a concern.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously, I'm talking about like generally. Obviously, there's always going to be a group of individuals within different faiths. They have the same interests that I'm talking about for a successful society. They don't fall into other things. But I'm talking about as a general. I didn't say this. The Quran says the Israeliyat, the Banu Israel, from all the previous prophets, they all had this. They were united in evil cause. They're always after evil. And every single one of them, they either persecuted the prophets, they killed their own prophets, they gave them a hard time. This is the tendencies of the Jews. This is Allah Ta'ala how He made them. And at the end of the day, you will see the Jews nowadays, the same thing. Sometimes you feel like, Quran, subhanAllah, was sent, for this current time. Quran will never get, bored. Quran will always be current. Subhanallah. It's never expired. It's not from the stuff about people think it's stories and old situations and all that. History repeats itself. Everything in the Quran is current. You can apply it this day and age. Subhanallah. Barakallah. Any other questions? Inshallah, you're good? Any question? Inshallah, with this we end. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.